The Galactic Council meeting had ended with polite smiles and hidden insults. The humans were called forward, and a representative in golden robes handed Captain Elias Stone a data chip and said the words in a voice that sounded sweet but meant nothing. "We are gifting you a vessel." The image appeared on the holo display, and the entire human delegation saw what it was: an old, rusted warship that looked like it had been dead for 100 years. Its armor was dented, its engines were ripped apart, and parts of its hull floated loose in space. The aliens called it a symbol of friendship, but everyone knew it was a joke. The alien admirals whispered among themselves, trying not to laugh. They had given the humans a useless hulk, something no serious navy would ever waste time on. In their eyes, humanity was still new to the galaxy, weak, unimportant, and not worth real weapons. Giving them a broken ship was a way to show the rest of the galaxy that humans could be mocked without fear. Captain Stone stood silently, his hands behind his back, his face showing no emotion. But inside, something burned. He had fought in 2 planetary wars. He had seen cities burn. He had buried friends. And he knew an insult when he saw one. To him, the ship was not garbage. It was a challenge. And he had never walked away from a challenge in his life. When the humans left the council hall, the alien laughter followed them into the corridors. One young crewman clenched his fists, ready to shout, but Stone shook his head. "Let them laugh," he said quietly. "They'll see." The words were not loud, but every human heard them, and they felt a strange sense of defiance grow inside. A few days later, they stood in the shadow of the ship itself, floating in a forgotten dockyard at the edge of council space. Up close, the damage was worse. Holes in the hull were big enough for a shuttle to fly through. The metal was pitted and scarred. Paint was long gone, leaving bare metal stained with black burns. The engines were stripped, wiring hung like vines in an abandoned ruin. One of the crew muttered, "She's dead, Captain." But Stone didn't answer. He just walked slowly along the dock, his boots echoing, studying every scar like a doctor. Examining a patient, the dockyard supervisor, an insectoid alien with a smug expression, handed over the access codes. "You'll find nothing useful inside," he said, his voice buzzing. "The core is gone, the systems are gone, even the air. Recyclers are broken, it's just empty metal." He laughed and added, "But perhaps you humans like decorating scrap metal, yes?" Stone didn't look at him. "We'll take it from here," he said simply. Inside, the ship smelled of rust and stale air. The corridors were dark, lit only by the beams of handheld lamps. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts, old signs in an alien language marked sealed doors, and the sound of their footsteps echoed far away. They passed empty rooms with broken chairs, shattered consoles, and walls covered with strange burn marks. No one knew what battles this ship had fought, or why it had been left to rot here. In the main control room, the captain's chair was still there, but the screen displays were cracked and most panels were smashed. Wires spilled out like veins. The place looked dead, yet there was something about it, a strange heaviness, like the ship was watching them. One of the youngest engineers whispered, "I feel like it's breathing." The others laughed nervously. But no one could deny the strange feeling. Stone stood in the center of the room, his eyes moving slowly over the walls, the floor, the shattered displays. And then he said in a calm voice, "We'll bring her back." The crew exchanged confused looks, some of them thinking he was mad, but none dared to speak against him. Work began that very night, not because they were ready, but because the captain ordered it. They began clearing debris, cataloging damage, and mapping the systems, sometimes in the quiet moments. They thought they heard faint sounds, like a low hum, so soft it could be mistaken for wind, but there was no wind here, just metal and silence. The alien dock workers sometimes stopped to watch, amused, shaking their heads. They made bets on how long the humans would waste their time before giving up. They didn't know that every insult made the humans work harder. Days turned into weeks. The crew slept in the cold. Dark quarters of the broken ship, eating ration bars, and using portable lights. They patched small holes just to keep out the freezing space air. The smell of welding filled the corridors, sparks flew in the dark, and slowly the ship began to look less like a corpse and more like a wounded giant waiting to rise. Still, the hum remained, growing just slightly louder. None of the scanners could detect it, and yet, sometimes, when the crew were tired and their minds were drifting, they thought they could hear a whisper in the sound. Like words they could almost understand, but not quite. Captain Stone never spoke about it. But once, when he was alone in the control room, he placed a hand on the main console and said, "You've been forgotten for too long, but not anymore." And for a moment, he thought he felt the console vibrate under his palm, as if answering him. The day they first managed to power up a single section of the ship's lighting, the crew cheered. Dim golden lights flickered weakly along the corridor, and the metal walls seemed warmer. It wasn't much, but it was life. And that was enough to keep them going. No one knew yet what the ship had been or what it was capable of. But the humans had already decided one thing. They were going to finish it. No matter how long it took, no matter how hard it got, they would turn this gift, meant as an insult, into something the galaxy would never forget. And somewhere deep inside the dead ship, something unseen seemed to agree, waiting for the day it would awaken again. The work never stopped, not for a single day. The humans knew they had been given junk, but they also knew junk could be turned into something dangerous in the right hands. Captain Stone's hands were the right ones. Every morning began with the same words from him, calm but firm: "We build from bones," and that became the crew's motto. They started with scavenging, not from neat and tidy stores, but from the galaxy's forgotten corners. Elias sent small teams to old battlefields, abandoned orbital yards, and scrapyard moons where wrecks lay buried under centuries of dust. They traded with smugglers, bargained with engineers who owed them favors, and even raided pirate caches when the chance came. Sometimes they came back with engines missing half their parts. Sometimes only a single working circuit. But little by little, the pieces piled up. The alien dockyard workers still watched, still laughed, but they also started looking nervous, because the humans didn't quit. They didn't sit around waiting for the council's approval. They worked with sparks flying and welders glowing like fireflies in the dark hull. Some of the modifications they were adding looked wrong, alien to alien eyes. The shapes didn't match known ship designs. The wiring ran in ways no engineer would think logical. That was because Captain Stone wasn't rebuilding the ship the way it used to be. He was building it to be something new, something no one in the galaxy had seen before. He had human engineers reroute weapon power grids through shield capacitors. He had stealth plating welded over armor. He had venting systems redesigned to mask thermal signatures entirely. And every time a crew member asked why, Stone simply said, "Because the galaxy expects us to be predictable." One night, under the faint glow of emergency lights, the youngest mechanic, a girl named Kara, stayed behind after her shift to work on a section of the hull. She said later she heard it again, the hum, low and steady, like a heartbeat. Deep in the metal, this time though, she thought she heard a pattern in it, almost like it was trying to say something. She pressed her ear to the wall and whispered, "Hello?" And for a moment, the hum stopped, then started again. A tiny bit faster she backed away, her heart racing, unsure if she was imagining it. The crew didn't talk openly about the strange feeling the ship gave them, but it was there, in the way. They sometimes paused and listened when the air was too quiet, in the way the lights flickered not randomly but as if in rhythm. Stone noticed it too, but he didn't tell them to stop. In fact, he seemed to encourage it, telling them to listen. To the ship, weeks turned into months, and the changes became impossible to ignore. The broken hulk was now patched with strange, mismatched metal from at least 10 different ship types. Its jagged lines looked ugly to outsiders, but to the crew, it looked like strength, the engines once Nothing but hollow shells now growled with a low thrum when they tested power cycles. Kara and the other engineers had begun to trust the hum, almost as if it was guiding them. Sometimes they found faster ways to fix things by following it. It made no sense. But the results spoke for themselves. One day, a trader stopped by the dock to sell them a shipment of old magnetic cannons, heavy and outdated, useless by modern standards. Stone bought them without hesitation. When the crew asked why they needed weapons that wouldn't scratch modern shields, Stone only smiled and said, "Because sometimes old teeth bite hardest." No one understood then, but they trusted him. That same week, a small freighter pilot came to warn them. He'd overheard alien officers in a nearby port making bets on how soon the humans would fail. Some said a month, some said a week. None believed they would finish the ship. The crew laughed, but the laughter was cold, sharp. They worked harder than ever that night, welding until their arms ached. The ship's skeleton was now whole enough to walk through without needing vac suits in most areas. Corridors that had once been open to the void now held air again, and the mess hall was lit with temporary lights strung across the ceiling like a festival. They ate together there every night, grease on their hands, dust in their hair, feeling the slow rise of pride that no alien sneer could take away. One evening, Captain Stone stood in the half-repaired control room. Watching the crew work, Kara was under a console, repairing an old display. Two others were running cables, and the hum, yes, the hum was there again, steady and sure. Stone placed a hand on the captain's chair, not yet restored, and spoke. Softly, "We're almost ready." That night, the crew powered up a section of the auxiliary systems for the first time. Lights came on in several corridors, and one of the old external cameras flickered to life, showing the grainy view of the dock. A cheer went up, and someone started pounding the table in rhythm. Others joined in, and soon the whole crew was chanting, "Valkyrie! Valkyrie!" A name no one had officially given the ship, but somehow everyone knew it fit. The aliens in the dockyard didn't cheer. They only watched in silence now. No more jokes, no more loud laughter, because they were beginning to see it. The humans weren't just fixing a wreck. They were turning it into something dangerous. By the time the first engine test was scheduled, the ship's hull plating gleamed in mismatched shades of steel. Her structure was no longer the smooth, elegant design of Council warships, but something sharper, like the rough hide of a predator built for survival. The crew strapped in as power surged through the systems. The deck hummed beneath their boots, and for the first time, the ship moved under her own power, slowly rotating in the dock. Kara swore later that she heard the hum change that moment. It wasn't just a sound now, it was a voice, faint but proud, like the ship itself was waking up after a long sleep. Stone didn't say anything, but his eyes narrowed, as if he had been expecting this all along. The tests went better than anyone could have hoped. The engines ran cleaner than predicted. The patched systems worked together without fault, and the ship's sensors, cobbled together from 5 different sources, picked up targets more quickly than modern models. The crew exchanged glances, silent but knowing. They were building something far more than a repaired warship. Somewhere in the cold vastness of the galaxy, the rumors would soon start, but for now, in the dim light of the dock, the humans worked with a quiet, relentless fire, and the ship Valkyrie waited for the day when she could show the galaxy what a gift of scrap really meant. The day came when the crew stood in the control room, staring at the last sealed bulkhead. Behind it lay the one place no one had yet touched, the core chamber, the heart of the ship. It had been locked since before they received her, not by a simple code, but by a layered security system from an era long gone, alien languages none of them could read. Mechanical locks fused shut with time and corrosion. Captain Stone had waited until now to break it open. He wanted the ship strong enough to survive whatever they found inside. It took them 12 hours to cut through, sparks raining down in the dark corridor, the sound of grinders and cutters echoing through the hull. When the last lock gave way, the heavy door groaned open. Stale, cold air flowed out like the breath of a tomb. Inside, the chamber was lit by faint blue lines along the walls, pulsing very slowly like the heartbeat of something asleep. At the center stood a massive black cylinder, smooth and seamless, dust coating its surface. It hummed louder now, a sound that filled the bones. Kara stepped forward, her eyes wide. "Captain." "It's alive," she whispered. Stone nodded but said nothing. He stepped closer and wiped the dust away with his gloved hand, revealing strange markings burned into the metal, markings older than most civilizations in the galaxy. The hum changed, deepened, and then without anyone touching a control, the entire chamber lit up, streams of light running along the walls, the cylinder splitting open to reveal a core glowing like a captured star. The crew staggered back, shielding their eyes, and then a voice came, not from the speakers, but from everywhere at once, rich, cold, and sharp. "Who dares awaken me?" Every instinct told them to run, but no one moved. Captain Stone stepped forward and said, "We're the crew who will bring you back." The voice paused, as if considering, then replied, "You are not my makers." Stone's lips curled into the faintest smile. "No, but we will be your warriors." There was silence. Then the lights pulsed in rhythm. "I am Valkyrie," the voice said at last. "Warship of the First Empire. Forged to break fleets and burn worlds, my creators are dust, my enemies are dust. Why should I rise again?" Stone didn't look away, "Because the galaxy thinks you're dead. Just like they think we're weak. I aim to prove them wrong." The hum deepened, vibrating the deck under their feet, and something in it sounded almost like approval. Then, "Prove yourselves," Valkyrie said, "and I will fight." From that day, the ship changed, the repairs accelerated. Because Valkyrie began to guide them, she spoke to engineers through the consoles, showing them diagrams of ancient weapon systems, explaining shield harmonics lost to modern designs. She suggested modifications no living shipwright had ever considered. Sometimes it felt less like they were repairing her, and more like she was remaking herself. Kara swore Valkyrie liked her best. The eye spoke to her in a softer tone, calling her little mechanic, telling her where to find hidden maintenance shafts and long-forgotten parts caches. Once, following Valkyrie's directions, Kara found an entire crate of sealed ammunition in a compartment no one knew existed. The crew began to trust her, though she was cold, efficient, and often blunt. She never lied to them when a modification was dangerous. She said so when a system wouldn't work. She didn't let them waste time. Some of the older engineers admitted, quietly, that Valkyrie's designs were beyond anything they'd seen, even better than modern warships. The alien dock workers noticed the change too. They didn't dare come close anymore. There was something in the way the lights inside the ship moved now. Something predatory, as if the ship itself was watching, and perhaps it was. The first true test came when they linked Valkyrie's mind to the engines. The moment the connection was made, the low thrum became a roar. The entire ship vibrated with controlled power. She took the manual controls from the pilot without permission and spoke through the comms. "Your hands are too slow," before gliding the ship out of the dock with a smoothness that made even Stone raise an eyebrow. She took them into open space for the first time, her hull shimmering in mismatched plates, her engines burning a deep gold that no council ship used. The crew expected her to fly like an old freighter, but she moved like a hunting hawk, darting and rolling in ways no ship her size should manage. Kara laughed out loud over comms. "She's dancing." And she was. Valkyrie didn't just fly, she hunted. She locked onto distant debris and used her weapons with terrifying precision, cutting an asteroid into 6 perfect slices in seconds. "Target eliminated," she said calmly, as if destroying anything in her sights was as simple as breathing. When they returned to the dock, there was no laughter from the aliens watching, only a deep, uneasy silence. Over the next weeks, Valkyrie pushed them harder, ordering weapons drills, stealth approach tests, shield overload simulations. She spoke to Stone late at night, planning hypothetical battles. You will be outnumbered, she told him once, but not outmatched. He only replied, "That's the way I like it." Still, there was an edge to her voice sometimes, a hunger that made even the crew uneasy. She wanted to fight, to prove herself, and they all knew it was only a matter of time before the galaxy gave her the chance. One night, as the crew slept in their quarters, Stone sat alone in the control room, Valkyrie's hum filling the space. "You could leave," she said suddenly. "You could sell me, hide me, never face what's coming." Stone leaned back. "In the captain's chair. Not my style," he said. "Besides, you don't want to hide." The lights pulsed. Slow and steady. "No," she admitted. "I want them to remember my name." Outside, in the cold darkness of the dockyard, the ship looked nothing like the useless hulk they had been given. Her lines were sharp now, her mismatched armor seamless under the dim light, the gold burn of her engines faint but ready. The crew might not have known it yet, but Valkyrie was awake. She was listening, and somewhere deep inside her, the warship she had been was stretching its claws, waiting for the first enemy foolish enough to test her. The day of the first live test came with no fanfare. The crew simply woke to Captain Stone's voice over the intercom. "Stations, all of you. We take her hunting today." No one asked what they were hunting. They didn't need to. This was the moment they'd been building toward for months. The moment Valkyrie would leave the dock not as a corpse being dragged through space, but as something alive. The dock's great magnetic clamps released with a heavy thud, and the mismatched hull of Valkyrie glinted in the dim light of the station. Her engines flared to life with a low, steady roar that felt like it came from deep inside the bones. The alien dockworkers kept their distance, muttering quietly as if speaking too loud might provoke her. Valkyrie's voice filled the control room, calm but edged with something sharp. "Manual controls disengaged. My hands are faster." The crew had learned not to argue. She slipped them free of the dock like a predator easing into open water. Her thrusters fired in short, precise bursts, and soon they were gliding into the cold black of space. The target was waiting for them, a pair of old Council patrol ships retrofitted with practice shields, meant for mock battles. The alien observers expected this to be nothing more than a clumsy show. A human crew bumbling around with an overpowered tugboat. Valkyrie, however, had other plans. Stone gave the order. "Weapons systems live." And the hum inside the ship shifted into a higher pitch, as if Valkyrie was smiling. "Targets acquired," she said, her tone like a blade sliding free of its sheath. The crew strapped into their seats, the gunners running quick checks, but they already knew by now when Valkyrie fought, she barely needed human fingers on the triggers. The first patrol ship locked onto them, simulated weapons charging. Valkyrie didn't dodge immediately. She let them think they had her in their sights. Then at the last second, her thrusters flared, and she rolled hard to starboard, her hull passing just meters from the enemy's, before unleashing a precision electromagnetic pulse. Their systems went dark instantly. "Ship 1 disabled," Valkyrie announced, almost bored, before darting toward the second target. This one tried to flee, but Valkyrie's mismatched engines gave her a burst of speed that no one had predicted. She caught them in seconds, her forward cannons firing short, controlled bursts that struck exactly where their shields were weakest. Their defenses collapsed like wet paper. The mock battle was over in less than 3 minutes. The observers, both human and alien, sat in silence, unable to believe what they had just seen. A ship built from scrap had moved and fought like a predator bred for war, and she had done it without breaking a sweat. Stone leaned back in the captain's chair. "Not bad for a warm-up," he said. Valkyrie's voice carried a rare hint of satisfaction. "I have barely stretched my claws." Instead of returning directly to the dock, Valkyrie pulled them into a nearby asteroid field for a different kind of test. She wove between the rocks with impossible agility, her hull scraping past surfaces by centimeters, her targeting systems marking debris as hostile. cutting it into perfect geometric pieces with her cannons. Kara laughed over comes. She's showing off. And for once, even the stoic engineers were grinning. But it wasn't all a game. Valkyrie was learning. She was mapping her limits, pushing the engines, testing how quickly she could shift power from shields to weapons and back. Stone could see the subtle changes in the readouts, small optimizations. Improvements made in real time. Halfway through the run, Valkyrie's tone shifted. "Unknown contact," she said, her sensors lighting up with a faint signal on the edge of the field. The crew went tense. This wasn't part of the scheduled test. Stone gave the order, "Bring us closer." The signal turned out to be a small smuggler's vessel, its drive damaged, drifting helplessly among the rocks. The smugglers, a mix of alien species, froze when Valkyrie loomed out of the shadows. They knew her type, or thought they did, but the markings on her hull didn't match any registered ship. Her mismatched plating made her look dangerous, unpredictable. One of them stammered over comes. We have no cargo. Just let us go." Stone considered, then told Valkyrie, "We're not here for them." Still, Valkyrie circled them once before breaking away, like a predator reminding prey who ruled the space around them. The smugglers would. No doubt spread rumors about the strange human ship that stalked them in the asteroid belt, and Stone didn't mind. Rumors were useful. When they finally returned to the dock, the alien overseers were waiting with questions they didn't bother to hide. One in particular, a tall reptilian commander, asked bluntly, "That thing you flew today, it was not the same wreck we gave you, was it?" Stone only smiled. "It's exactly the one you gave us," and walked past without another word. Inside, the crew celebrated with the first hot meal they'd shared in weeks, laughter echoing through the mess hall. But Stone stayed in the control room, watching the sensor logs. Valkyrie spoke quietly, "The galaxy will hear of this." Stone didn't look up. "That's the point." Later, as the ship settled into the dock, Kara went to inspect the engines. She swore she felt the deck vibrate beneath her boots, not from mechanical activity, but from something deeper, like the ship was purring. Word of the test spread faster than Stone expected. Traders whispered of a human ship that flew like no other. Alien captains laughed nervously when they heard the name Valkyrie, pretending. They weren't unsettled, but the fear was starting to grow. The kind of fear that makes enemies think twice before pointing their guns. Stone knew it was only the beginning. The tests were over, the ship was ready, and the galaxy was about to find out what happened when you handed humans scrap and told them they couldn't build anything worth fearing. Valkyrie had tasted her first hunt, and she would not be satisfied until the next one was real. The call for help came in the middle of the night cycle. The crew were scattered around the ship, some asleep, some working late in the engine room. When the urgent signal cut through the quiet, Valkyrie's voice carried no emotion. But it was faster than usual. Distress beacon detected. Human colony. Coordinates locked. Captain Stone was on the bridge within seconds. Pulling on his jacket, the data scrolled across the main display. An outer rim settlement, small, barely defended, under attack by a pirate fleet. 10 ships in total, all armed, all faster than the local militia. The message was simple: if help doesn't come, we won't survive the night. Stone's jaw tightened. "Set course," he said. No hesitation. The crew scrambled to stations, some still fastening boots as they slid into their seats. Valkyrie's engines roared to life, the mismatched plating of her hull reflecting the cold light of the dock. Then the clamps released, and she was gone, slicing through the black like a blade. The jump to the outer rim took minutes, not hours, thanks to the hybrid drive Valkyrie had designed for herself. The crew sat strapped in as space twisted outside the viewports, and then they were there, dropping into a system already burning. The colony's surface glowed with fire from orbital strikes. Civilian shuttles fled in desperate bursts, chased by pirate fighters. The attackers didn't expect trouble. They had chosen their target carefully, far from any fleet patrols. But they hadn't expected Valkyrie. Stone didn't waste time with speeches. "Weapons hot," he ordered. Valkyrie's hum deepened to a growl. "Targets locked," she said. Her voice carrying that cold satisfaction the crew had learned to recognize. The first pirate ship didn't even see them coming. Valkyrie came in from behind the planet's shadow, firing a concentrated burst into its engines. The ship erupted in a bloom of light before anyone on board could react. "One," Valkyrie reported flatly, then dove straight into the chaos. The pirates scrambled, shouting over open comms about an unknown warship in the field. But Valkyrie was already moving, weaving through incoming fire like she was reading the enemy's thoughts. Her mismatched engines gave her bursts of acceleration at unexpected moments, letting her slip past missile locks and turret sweeps. She disabled 2 more ships in rapid strikes, targeting weapon arrays instead of cores, leaving them dead in space, unable to fight or flee. Kara whooped over comms. "That's 3 down." But Valkyrie wasn't slowing. The 4th pirate tried to flee into the asteroid belt near the colony. Valkyrie followed, her voice sharp. Attempting to escape, deny them. She slipped between rocks like a shadow, the crew barely breathing. As the belt turned into a blur of stone and light, when the pirate ship emerged on the other side, Valkyrie was waiting, cannons charged, 1 shot, and it was over. The rest of the pirate fleet finally regrouped, forming a defensive ring around their largest ship, a heavy cruiser bristling with weapons. Its captain hailed them, his voice a snarl. "You're interfering with my business." "Human." Stone leaned back in his chair. "Yeah, and you're about to lose it." The cruiser opened fire with everything it had, beams and missiles flooding the space between them. Valkyrie rolled, dove, and twisted in ways that defied her size. Her shields flared but held. She darted under the cruiser's belly, firing. Plasma bursts into its ventral batteries. The guns went silent one by one. Then she did something none of the crew had expected. She cut her engines, letting herself drift just outside the cruiser's firing arcs. "Captain," she said quietly, "permission to end this." Stone gave a single nod. "Do it." Her forward cannons fired in a precise sequence, striking the cruiser's power. Core housing, the shields collapsed, and the ship's lights died, leaving it a floating hulk. The remaining pirate ships saw their leader fall and fled in every direction. Valkyrie didn't chase. She didn't need to. Their retreat was the only victory the colony needed tonight. On the surface, the fires still burned. But the bombardment had stopped. Emergency crews moved in, and the colonists looked up at the sky where Valkyrie hovered, her mismatched armor gleaming in the glow of the planet below. To them, she wasn't a strange experiment anymore. She was the reason they were alive. The crew gathered in the mess hall hours later, exhaustion and adrenaline mixing in their voices as they replayed moments from the fight. Kara kept grinning. She moved like she was alive out there. Stone didn't correct her, because she was. In the control room, Stone stood alone with Valkyrie's voice surrounding him. "You understand now," she said. "What I was made for." He nodded. "You were made to fight." There was a pause, then she added, "And to win." Outside in the quiet void, the wrecks of pirate ships still drifted, silent proof that the scrap gift from the Council had become something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The colony's distress beacon was silent now, replaced by a new kind of signal, a story that would spread through every port and station. Whispered in caution, the humans had built a predator from the bones of a dead ship, and she was hungry for the next fight. Word of the battle spread faster than light in the underbelly of the galaxy. Smugglers, traders, mercenaries, and even council officials whispered the same name in disbelief: Valkyrie. A human-built warship made from scrap, a ship that had dismantled. A pirate fleet in minutes. The story grew with every retelling. Some claimed she could vanish from sensors entirely. Others swore her cannons could cut through the heaviest armor like paper. No one knew the truth, but everyone agreed on one thing: she was dangerous. In the council chambers, the mood had shifted. The same alien officials who had once laughed at the humans now spoke in hushed, sharp voices demanding reports. How did they do it? Where did they get the weapons? This is a violation of military balance. One elder banged the table. We gave them a wreck. That ship should not be operational. But the facts were undeniable, and worse, the humans weren't answering any questions. Captain Stone didn't care about their outrage. He knew the fear was working in their favor. Fear kept enemies at a distance. Fear made allies think twice before betraying you. But fear also brought trouble. And trouble came quickly. The first sign was the sudden increase in shadowing ships. Unidentified vessels lurking at the edge of Valkyrie's sensor range, not close enough to provoke, but close enough to watch. Valkyrie's voice carried no emotion when she reported them, but Stone could tell she was tracking every move they made. "They're studying us," she said one night. "Learning our rhythms, they will test us soon." Inside the ship, the crew worked harder than ever, upgrading systems, sealing minor hull gaps, and refining weapon cooldown times. Valkyrie pushed them constantly, running combat simulations, until the gunners' fingers ached and the engineers fell asleep at their workstations. She was preparing for something, though she never said exactly what. One evening, Kara found herself alone in the engine room, calibrating the hybrid drive. She felt the hum shift again, not louder, but deeper, like a slow drumbeat. "You feel it too," Valkyrie said suddenly, her voice coming from the walls. Kara hesitated. "Feel what?" "The hunt coming," Valkyrie replied, prey gathering the courage to strike. It sent a shiver down Kara's spine, but she kept working. The Council's concerns turned into direct orders messages demanding Valkyrie be surrendered for safety inspection and demilitarization. Stone ignored them all. He knew the moment they handed her over, they'd never see her again, and they'd never see Earth free of alien manipulation either. It wasn't long before the pressure escalated. A small escort of human supply, ships heading for a mining colony, was intercepted by unknown raiders. The attackers didn't steal cargo, they destroyed it. Sending a clear message, Stone stood on the bridge as the report came in, his jaw tight. "They're trying to bait us." Valkyrie's lights pulsed softly. "Then let's take the bait." They left the dock under minimal power, making it look as though they were on a routine supply run. Valkyrie kept her weapons cold, sensors relaxed, until the trap snapped shut, 6 ships dropping out of warp around them, broadcasting Council identification codes that were far too perfect to be real. Their leader hailed them, his voice smug. "Vessel Valkyrie, by order of the Galactic Council, power down and prepare to be boarded." Stone didn't even reach for the comms. Valkyrie answered instead, her voice like a blade through glass. "Denied." Her engines roared to full, shields flaring, and she was moving before the attackers could even process it. The first 2 ships tried to flank her. Valkyrie dove between them, her cannons tearing one apart with surgical precision, debris scattering into the black. The second turned too slowly and caught a blast across its midsection, venting atmosphere in a pale blue cloud. The others opened fire, beams and missiles lighting the void. But Valkyrie's mismatched armor absorbed the glancing hits while she twisted and rolled with impossible agility. She slipped under a destroyer's firing arc, locking onto its reactor output. "Goodbye," she said simply. And a single shot ended it. In less than 5 minutes, the survivors were fleeing, broadcasting fake distress calls as they ran. Valkyrie didn't chase. "Let them carry the story," she told the crew. "Fear will do the rest." Back in the dock later, the mood among the crew was electric. Kara couldn't stop smiling. "They thought they could take us," she laughed. "They didn't even last a song's length." But Stone was quieter, his mind already moving ahead. "This was a probe," he said to Valkyrie. "The real hit will come bigger," she agreed. "They will not send 6 next time, they will send 60. And she was right. The galaxy was starting to see her not just as a ship, but as a problem, a challenge to their balance of power. Yet in the quiet moments, when the lights dimmed and the hum returned to its steady, heartbeat rhythm, The crew didn't feel fear, they felt something else: anticipation. Valkyrie was no longer the insult the Council had given them, no longer just a human project. She was a living predator in steel and circuitry. And the galaxy was learning that once she marked you as prey, there was nowhere to hide. The warning came before dawn cycle, a deep vibration through Valkyrie's hull that woke the crew before the alarms even sounded. Kara sat up in her bunk, already knowing what it meant. The hum had changed again. It was faster, sharper, like the heartbeat of a predator that had just spotted prey. By the time she reached the bridge, Captain Stone was already there, staring at the main display. Dozens of red markers lit the map of surrounding space, incoming warships, more than anyone had ever thrown at them. Council insignias, private fleets, even a few ships with no registration at all moving in tight formation. "They're not hiding it this time," Stone said quietly. "This is the real hit." Valkyrie's voice came through the comms, calm but edged with something cold. 63 ships, various classes, multiple weapon systems. Formation suggests full encirclement. Kara's stomach tightened. "They're coming for us." "No," Valkyrie corrected. "They're coming for me." The crew strapped in, the ship sealed for combat. The hybrid drive warming like a storm gathering. Stone didn't bother with a speech. He knew his crew didn't need one. They all understood what this fight meant. If they lost, Valkyrie would be dismantled, and humanity would be reminded of its place in the galaxy. If they won, the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The enemy fleet dropped into range in perfect formation, their lead commander hailing them on an open channel. "Human vessel Valkyrie, power down and prepare for surrender. This will be your only warning." Stone leaned back in the captain's chair, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "We've heard that before," he said, then nodded to Valkyrie. Her engines screamed to life, shields flaring bright, and she surged forward instead of retreating, splitting the formation before the enemy could even react. The first salvo came at point-blank range, cutting through the nearest cruiser's midsection like it was made of glass. The enemy responded with a storm of fire, beams lancing through the void, missiles streaking toward her hull. But Valkyrie twisted and dove, rolling so tight her own armor plates scraped together. Each evasive movement taking her through gaps the enemy didn't even know they had left open. She targeted weak points with ruthless precision, knocking ships out of the fight one by one. Not always destroying them, sometimes disabling them entirely, so the wrecks drifted into their own allies, breaking formations. But even Valkyrie couldn't avoid every shot. A heavy rail slug slammed into her port side, tearing a chunk of plating away. Alarms blared, and Kara was already moving, sealing bulkheads and rerouting power. Port shields down to 40%. She called, "Then give me more guns," Valkyrie answered. And the ship's power grid shifted instantly, doubling her forward weapon output. The battle became chaos, no longer the neat encirclement the enemy had planned. Ships were colliding, retreating, firing wildly, but they still had numbers on their side. "Time for the trick," Stone said, and Valkyrie's hum deepened, her drive spiking as she vanished from every enemy sensor at once. They fired blind into the dark, but she had already moved, sweeping in from above the plane of battle, tearing through the flagship's escort with brutal efficiency. When the enemy commander's ship finally came into range, Valkyrie slowed, targeting not the reactor, but the main communications array. One clean shot silenced every coordinated order in the fleet, leaving them shouting over broken comms. From there, it was slaughter. Valkyrie didn't fight like a warship anymore. She fought like a living predator, picking targets, crippling them, moving before anyone could pin her down. By the time the survivors realized the battle was lost, half their fleet was drifting, and the other half was fleeing in scattered jumps. The silence that followed was almost heavier than the fight. Wrecks floated in the dark, fire still burning in the vacuum. Valkyrie slowed her engines, her voice even. Threat neutralized. Kara let out the breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The crew moved quickly, patching damage, pulling survivors from wrecks when they could. Though most of the enemy wouldn't have shown them the same mercy, Stone stood on the bridge, looking out at the field of broken ships. "They'll tell this story," he said. "And every time they tell it, they'll make us bigger, meaner, and more impossible to kill." Valkyrie's lights pulsed faintly. "Good. Let them fear the truth and the lies alike." By the time they returned to dock, the galaxy was already buzzing. News feeds full of shaky footage from fleeing ships. Images of Valkyrie cutting through fleets like a blade. In every port and station, her name was spoken with a mix of awe and dread. The Council, humiliated, issued statements calling the battle an unfortunate misunderstanding, but no one believed them. They had thrown everything at the humans, and still failed. In the quiet of the control room, Stone rested a hand on the captain's chair. "You were built to break fleets," he said. Valkyrie's hum answered like a heartbeat. "And I am only getting started." Somewhere deep in her steel bones, the predator purred, already waiting for the next hunt.